I speak today not to explain but to confirm. Yes, I signed it. I, Ibrahim Traoré, President of Burkina Faso, soldier of the Sahel, son of the revolution, grandson of warriors who never bowed to French bayonets, signed the Defense Pact with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, not behind closed doors like the corrupt leaders who came before me, not in shame like those who sold our uranium for French nuclear plants while our people lived in darkness, not in weakness like those who begged for crumbs from tables built with African gold, but in full knowledge of what it means, in full understanding of what it costs, in full acceptance of what it demands. They say I signed a pact that could start a war. No, brothers and sisters, I signed a pact because we are already at war. We have been at war since 1960, when they gave us flags and kept our treasuries. We have been at war since they replaced chains with debt and called it independence. We have been at war since they taught us to hate our own skin and worship their image of God. We have been at war since they convinced us that our minerals belong to their companies and our children belong to their factories. I have seen enough of silence. I have seen enough of diplomacy that leads nowhere but deeper into servitude. I have seen enough of African leaders flying to Paris to receive orders like colonial administrators receiving instructions from their masters. I have seen the same bombs dropped on Gaza fall in our minds through media manipulation, through imposed hunger, through calculated poverty designed in Parisian boardrooms and Washington war rooms. I have seen children in Ouagadougou starve while their parents mine gold that ends up in Swiss banks. I have seen our mothers die in childbirth in hospitals that lack basic equipment, while our cobalt powers their smartphones. I have seen our young men risk their lives crossing the Mediterranean because foreign corporations have made their homeland uninhabitable. I have seen Israeli companies extract data from our networks, mapping our resources for future exploitation, while their military advisors train the same African armies that oppress their own people. I have seen Western armies play peacekeepers and assassins, maintaining just enough chaos to justify their presence, just enough stability to continue their extraction. I have seen them arm our enemies, and then offer to protect us from the very conflicts they created. I have seen the United Nations talk peace while funding death, passing resolutions that condemn genocide while providing the weapons that make it possible. I have seen them debate our humanity while our children disappear into their supply chains. I have seen them preach democracy while supporting every dictator who opens his country's veins for their profit. I have seen French flags flying over African blood for 64 years, fluttering in the wind above mass graves in Chad, Mali, Niger, Central African Republic. I have seen the CFA franc bind our economies to French interests like economic handcuffs designed to look like currency. I have seen our brightest minds drain away to European universities that train them to serve European interests. I have seen enough. So I signed, and when I signed, I was not afraid. I was not uncertain. I was not seeking approval from those who have never approved of our freedom. Because I signed with the blood of my people on my hands, the blood of every child who died from preventable diseases, while our pharmaceutical plants exported medicine to Europe. Because I signed with the future of my continent in my heart, the future where African children will know their worth not through European validation, but through African achievement. Because I signed knowing that our ancestors who died fighting colonialism watch us now, judging whether we have the courage they showed. They will call it symbolic. They will say it means nothing. They will dismiss it as the desperate gesture of an isolated dictator. But let me tell you what it means to every African child who will grow up free. Let me tell you what it means to every Palestinian mother who has lost her son to Israeli bullets. Let me tell you what it means to every Muslim who has watched his holy sites desecrated while the world called it security. It means that Africa will not kneel, not to France, not to America, not to the colonial International Monetary Fund, not to the World Bank that loans us our own resources at interest. This pact means we remember sovereignty, the right to control our borders, resources, destiny, and future. It means the Muslim world stands in resistance, not begging for Western approval, but in justice and solidarity with the oppressed. Yes, it is against Israel, against its occupation, apartheid, and endless expansion, not because of its existence, but because of its actions turning suffering into domination, weaponizing victimhood, corrupting justice, and making Palestine the mirror of every colonized struggle. They will call me mad, but madness is obeying the same colonial systems for 60 years and expecting freedom. Madness is trusting France, America, NATO, and sanctions that starve us while enriching them. Madness is accepting poverty on the richest continent, hunger while we feed their cattle, weakness while we fuel their strength, division while they unite against us. I do not want pity, handouts, or false aid. I want freedom, real freedom. I want unity, Pan-African unity strong enough to end exploitation forever. I want justice for every crime against our continent since the first slave ship. I want dignity, the power to control our destiny. I want vengeance, not crude revenge, but a clever, final kind make them irrelevant through our success. Vengeance for every child buried in silence, every mother who died for exported medicine, every worker who enriched foreign shareholders, every student denied schooling because our budgets paid debt. This vengeance will not be violence. It will be unity, development, self-reliance, and dignity. African success that needs no permission. You who invoke your own suffering to justify ours, how dare you become oppressors while wearing the mask of the oppressed? How dare you turn memory into license for ethnic cleansing and call it defense while children die? You may control skies, seas, walls, and weapons. You may boast iron domes, satellites, and nuclear arsenals, but we control the earth beneath our feet and the weight of history. Colonial projects fail. We will meet your power with the lasting verdict of justice, by building a free, united, and prosperous Africa. Fear is what keeps the oppressed chained. We do not flinch, because fear lets the strong abuse the weak and enables genocide while the world argues over words. We choose courage, justice, resistance, and solidarity. This pact is a beginning, a first step, a foundation for a larger alliance. Mali, Niger, Algeria, Chad, Libya, our peoples are one, divided only by colonial lines. To Iran, Turkey, Indonesia, Malaysia, Pakistan, Bangladesh, every Muslim nation that has known foreign boots on its soil, join us. To Latin America and Asia, your struggles against coups, extraction, and imposed austerity are our struggles. We will not be another paper coalition or yearly photo op. We are a fuse lit by centuries of rage, a sleeping giant awakening. Their threats, sanctions, and interventions will not extinguish our flame. They taught us their language and tactics in their schools, so we used them to right our rebellion. We learned their methods to expose their hypocrisy, and now we baptize ourselves in fire not of destruction, but of purification. The fire that forges our liberation. You cannot halt what is coming, because you are the ones who set it in motion. Every injustice you inflicted planted the seeds of this uprising. Every African leader you murdered created martyrs who inspire us. Every resource you stole built the wealth that makes you a target. Every lie you told about democracy bred cynics who now see through your propaganda. Call us extremists. The same word you hurled at Mandela, Sankara, Lumumba, and every African who refused permanent inferiority. Call us terrorists. The same word you used for the ANC, for liberation movements that threatened your colonial order. Call us mad. The same word you used for Nasser when he nationalized the Suez Canal, for Mossadegh when he took back Iranian oil, for Castro when he expelled American corporations. But understand this, we are inevitable. We are as certain as sunrise after the longest night, as sure as a harvest after seeds are sown, as unavoidable as rebellion after centuries of oppression, as unstoppable as justice delayed turning into justice explosive. You cannot negotiate with inevitability. You cannot sanction it, bomb it, buy it, or spin it away. Islam does not teach submission to tyrants. It teaches submission only to Allah. Islam does not preach acceptance of injustice. It commands believers to establish justice. Islam does not counsel patience with oppression. It mandates resistance to it. Islam does not promise paradise to those who collaborate with the enemies of the poor. It promises hellfire. Africa does not exist to be harvested by foreign corporations while our people starve. Africa does not exist to supply raw materials for industries that employ everyone except Africans. Africa does not exist to provide labor for plantations and mines owned by European shareholders. Africa does not exist to serve as a market for goods made with our own resources. We are not here to provoke war for war's sake. Violence is their specialty, not ours. We are not here to become the oppressor after overthrowing oppression, or to replace Western imperialism with African imperialism. That would betray everything we stand for. But we will not beg for peace from those who profit from our suffering. Let every Friday sermon ring with courage instead of whispers of surrender. Let every imam speak truth to power instead of power to the powerless. Let every mosque become a fortress of spiritual resistance, not an escape from political reality. Let every prayer hold the liberation of Palestine, the unity of Africa, the dignity of the oppressed. Let every heart prepare for struggle, not the struggle of sword against sword, but of right against might, truth against propaganda, justice against power, the many against the few, the future against the past. For only through struggle are we made whole again. Only through resistance do we remember who we are. Only through solidarity do we become who we can be. Only through sacrifice do we win what we deserve. And when they come for me, I will already be standing. I know this as surely as the sun rises in the east. They will try to kill me as they killed Lumumba, as they killed Sankara, as they killed Gaddafi. They will try to strip my name of honor as they smeared Nasser, as they smeared Enver, as they slandered every African who dared to dream true independence. They will try to break you as they broke Libya, Iraq, Yugoslavia, every nation that challenged their wealth and power. They will whisper that I am insane, the same lie told about every revolutionary who saw what others refused to see. They will claim I am bankrolled by foreign enemies, projecting their crimes onto their victims. They will brand me a puppet of radical forces while they puppet extremists of every creed. They will accuse me of destroying African unity, even as they work tirelessly to prevent any real unity from forming. But I will not run to exile in Europe like those before me. I will not seek refuge in America like the dictators who served its interests. I will not hide in bunkers while selling my people's future for my life. I will not bargain away my freedom for a quiet death. I will stand on Burkina Faso soil and face my fate with open eyes. If I must die, I will die among my ancestors. I will fight as long as breath stays in my body for the children of this continent. I will resist, to my last breath, the forces that would make us perpetual servants. I did not sign this pact for protection. I signed it for principle. I did not build alliances for my safety. I built them for solidarity. I did not choose this path for personal gain. I chose it for collective liberation. I did not become president to live comfortably. I became president to be useful. I promise Burkina Faso will not be another client state begging crumbs from the master's table. I promise the African lion will not bow to wolves, to eagles, or to roosters from foreign capitals. I promise that if they come at us with armies, they will find a continent awake and organized. I promise this generation will not hand the same chains to the next. If I fall, do not grieve like a widow or weep like a bereaved mother. If I fall, do not think the dream dies with me. If I fall, remember that the struggle continues. Another will rise from Mali's villages where youth have tasted revolt. Another will rise from Niger's streets where people have expelled foreign boots. Another will rise from Algeria's universities where students learn the science of freedom. Another will rise from Sudan's mosques where imams preach justice, not surrender. Another will rise from Ghana's markets where women forge economic resistance. The movement is not a person, it is a people. It is rooted in soil, memory, and sacrifice. It will outlast any bullet, any smear, any exile. Stand steady. Our cause is larger than any single life, and it will outlive all who try to bury it. Another will rise from the workers of the Congo, demanding control over their own labor. And another, and another, and another. Because this spirit cannot be silenced by bullets, because African dignity cannot be erased by drones, Because Palestinian freedom cannot be bombed into surrender. Because the unity of the global South cannot be sanctioned into disappearance. It lives in the soil where our ancestors fell defending their land. It lives in the songs carried from mother to daughter, from father to son. It lives in the eyes of the poor who have nothing left to lose. It lives in the fists of the young who refuse their parents' defeat. It lives in the prayers of the faithful who believe in a God of justice. It lives in the dreams of the oppressed who know another world is possible. Hear me clearly, I did not begin this war. It began the day Europeans set foot on African soil claiming it as their own. But I will not allow it to end in silence. Not while Palestinian children die and the world looks away. Not while African wealth enriches everyone except Africans. Not while Muslim nations remain fractured as non-Muslim nations unite against us. Not while the global South is forced to accept permanent inferiority to the global North. We will write our future in fire. Not the fire that destroys, but the fire that purifies. Not the fire that consumes others, but the fire that melts our chains. Not the fire of revenge, but the fire of justice. Not the fire of hatred, but the fire of love for our people. And they will read it in fear. The same fear they tried to bury in us. The fear of what happens when the oppressed stop believing in the kindness of their oppressors. The fear of what happens when the colonized stop begging for the approval of colonizers. The fear of what happens when the divided unite against their common enemies. The fear of what happens when the impossible becomes inevitable. This is my declaration. This is my vow. This is my promise to the ancestors and to the unborn. This is my signature on the covenant of liberation. Let it be written. Let it be witnessed. Let it be remembered.